I'd like to call the August 14th, 2024 Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting to order. If you are able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you are able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Who is that jerk making?
What's that?
This is an audio test. Audio test 2.
All right. Well, thank you, Megan, for making sure we're up to date. It's never fun to have a last minute technical issues. So, all right, we did the Pledge of Allegiance. We have the roll call, please.
Chair Halstead?
Here.
Commissioner Petty is absent. Commissioner Fikes? Here. Commissioner Ayersley? Here. Vice Chair Costin?
Here.
Commissioner Woodard? Here. And Commissioner Twait?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. We're going to, is there a motion to approve the agenda and consent agenda?
I have a correction for that. Do I say that first?
Sure.
Okay, for last meeting's agenda or minutes, do I correct that now? It lists Chris Munford as Mumford, and his name is spelled M-U-N-F-O-R.
Noted. So if you'd like to make a motion to, you can just, hold on one sec. We can just approve the agenda and consent agenda with the changes to those minutes. If we get a second? If you are making.
Okay, so we have a second on the consent agenda. Could you please read the consent agenda into the record?
Okay, we have approval of minutes, regular meeting of June 26, 2024, as amended. New business action approval requesting an excused absence for the June 26, 2024 regular meeting from Chair Halstead, and that is your consent agenda.
Thank you very much. And we do have those revisions added to the agenda. We're going to approval of minutes, which we just did, right? Okay. Item C, scheduled public comment. We have none. Unscheduled public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to speak to anything that is not on the agenda? Okay. Seeing none. Consideration of plats. We have none, which leads us to item F, which is Resolution PZ 2024-18, consideration of a variance permit for reduced buffer distances on the property described as government lots 19, 20, and 21, section 6, T5N R11W, located at 11888 Kenai Spur Highway, Suite 3 in the General Commercial GC Zone. Please note that the title provided on the resolution states that this is a resolution denying the application for a variance permit. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution PZ 2024-18, denying the application for a variance permit? Commissioner Twait.
I would move to approve Resolution PZ 2024-18.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Director Best, can we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you indicated, this is a variance permit for buffering distance within a conditional use permit to allow a retail marijuana store. The applicants are Sandra and Troy Millhouse. As you indicated, the address is 11888 Kenai Spur Highway. It's a 1.67 acre lot. The current zoning is general commercial, and it is an unoccupied commercial structure at this time. Just a note that this is kind of a combined item tonight, so there will be a public hearing on both of these. To be a party of record, you need to address both items. So you'll get two bites at the apple, or two opportunities to speak, because there are two separate items. So just so you know, I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that you'll have appeal rights if you're a party of record. The analysis of the variance is that the Millhouses under the Mr. Moses under the direction of Millhouses has submitted a variance permit application seeking relief from the Kenai Municipal Code subsection 1420-330F. is requesting buffer distance be adjusted such that the proposed marijuana retail store be considered. Commercial marijuana establishments must comply with 142330 standards for commercial marijuana establishments as stated in the code. That relevant part of code is that no portion of the parcel upon which any commercial marijuana establishment is located shall be permitted within 1,000 feet of a primary or secondary school and 500 feet of any vocational program, post-secondary school, including but not limited to trade, technical, or vocational schools, colleges, universities, recreation or youth centers, correctional facilities, churches, and state licensed substance abuse treatment facilities. Additionally, buffer distance shall be measured as the closest distance from the perimeter of the standalone commercial marijuana establishment structure to the outer boundaries of the school, recreation, or youth center, or main public entrance of the church, correctional facility, or substance abuse treatment facility providing substance abuse treatment. Within the 1,000-foot buffer map on the attachments in the staff report, staff found no institutional uses. Therefore, the proposed marijuana store is located outside the 1,000-foot buffer. The 500-foot buffer and accompanying maps you will see on exhibits A and B show that within 500 feet of the proposed retail marijuana store, 2 parcels contain facilities meeting the definition of recreation use center. Prior to granting a variance permit, the commission must find that all the conditions have been met set forth in KMC 142180C. Variance criteria 1, special conditions or circumstances that are present which are peculiar to the land or structures involved in which are not applicable to other land or structures in the same land use zoning district. Per the applicant's statement, the property in question was purchased after Linda Mitchell, the former planning director of the city of Kenai, called Miss Sandra Millhouse and told her that the property in question was outside the 500-foot buffer zone. Mr. and Mrs. Millhouse would not have purchased the property in question without Miss Mitchell's assurance. In short, they relied upon her assurance to the detriment. Moreover, the property is currently vacant. Accordingly, its development will increase the value of surrounding properties as well as the overall aesthetics of the area. Staff's findings are that no special condition or circumstances peculiar to the land or structure of the subject parcel meet this criterion. Variance criteria 2, special conditions or circumstances have not been caused by actions of the applicant, and such conditions and circumstances do not merely constitute pecuniary hardship or inconvenience. Per the applicant's statement, as stated, Mr. and Mrs. Millhouse relied upon Ms. Mitchell's assurance to purchase the property. Simply put, Mr. and Mrs. Millhouse would not have purchased the subject property but for Ms. Mitchell's mistake. It is entirely reasonable for Mr. and Mrs. Millhouse to rely upon the planning director in the situation. Additionally, Mr. and Mrs. Millhouse were informed by Ms. Mitchell that another marijuana facility was granted a variance to operate within 250 feet of a recreation or youth center. Accordingly, there is precedent for the grant of such a variance. Staff's finding is that the requested variance is intended to redress a pecuniary hardship or inconvenience caused by action of the applicant. The applicants indicate that the building only has value as a commercial marijuana establishment. There are many other uses permitted in the general commercial zoning district. The inability to operate a retail marijuana store does not substantially diminish economic opportunity. Therefore, the request for a variance permit does not meet this criteria. Variance criteria 3, the granting of the variance shall not authorize a use that is not a permitted principal use of the zoning district in which the property is located. The applicant's statement, the property in question is located in the general commercial zone, which allows for conditional use permits for marijuana retail facilities per KMC 1422.010. Staff finding pursuant to Kenai Municipal Code, Section 1422.010 land use table, a retail marijuana store is not a permitted principal use in a general commercial zoning district, but instead requires a conditional use permit. Therefore, the request for a variance permit does not meet that criterion. Variance criteria 4, the granting of the variance shall be the minimum variance that will provide for the reasonable use of the land and the structure. Per the applicant's statement, the ball fields in question were actually more than 1,000 feet away from the proposed marijuana retail facility, although within 500 feet of the buffer zone under KMC 142330 F1 when measured as the city of Kenai measures, so the requested variance is minimal in all practical effect and will allow Mr. and Mrs. Millhouse to enjoy the property as they see fit and as KAMC allows. Findings per staff, the granting of the variance would be the minimum variance by allowing the applicant to operate a retail marijuana store within approximately 332 feet, see Exhibit A, of the outer boundaries of the nearest recreation use center. Variance criteria 5, granting the variance shall not be based upon other non-conforming land uses or structures with the same land or zoning district. Per the applicant's statement, given that the property in question is zoned for general commercial and the general commercial allows for conditional use permits for retail marijuana facilities, this variance will not be based upon other non-conforming land uses or structures within the same land use zoning district. Staff finding, an excerpt from the applicant's statement from other sections of the application state, another marijuana facility was granted a variance to operate within 250 feet of a recreation or use center. Accordingly, there was precedent for the grant of such a variance. Therefore, the request for the variance permit does not meet the criterion. All public notices and mailings were sent per the code, and the staff recommends that the proposed variance permit application requesting buffer zone adjustments do not meet the criteria for issuance of variance permit as set forth in the KMC 1420-180C, and hereby recommend the Planning Commission and Planning and Zoning Commission deny the proposed variance permit application. The decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission is subject to appeal pursuant to KMC 1420-290, and that is the end of the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Director Best. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak to Resolution PZ 2024-18? Okay. Come up to the podium, state your name, and I don't know.
Good afternoon. Good evening. My name is Denise Isaacs. I leased that. I've been in the community since 1980s, and my husband, Ron Isaacs, has been here way before that. We live and have raised our children here. We know quite a bit about all different kinds of things because we've been here a long time. Long story short, we were the ones that applied for that conditional use permit back in 2016. And I want to support the denial of this particular marijuana business, any marijuana business in this particular building, because it does not meet those standards. And the Little League and the baseball people and the Kenaitze people that protested against me would surely stand up also and do that. I also feel that it is my obligation to tell that there is the law, and the law says that everyone is to be created equal, or have equal rights. And therefore, one person was denied, therefore the next person should be denied on that basis as well, because that is discrimination if you do not. And I feel terrible that these particular people made this judgment of purchasing property prior to going through the procedures and the proper documentation to assure them that they had this place. They were also known marijuana people, so they've got some brains, and I'm sorry for their misfortune. However, it would be discriminatory upon me, and I feel I have suffered damages in that event if this pursues. There are many reasons why the city made these boundaries, and therefore the city population supports those boundaries in which they were made. They should not be altered for one person because someone decided to buy property before they went through the proper procedures of finding out what was legally binding for that particular property. I'm very sorry for that, but I cannot do nothing for that. That is an entrepreneurship. I went through many different legal surveys, many different, about a half a dozen, 3 of them that came so close to signing leases, and other marijuana places got them instead. I understand both sides of the spectrum, and I believe in hemp and marijuana, and it should be legal and be able to, but we have to apply the rules, and they need to apply equally to everyone without discrimination. And therefore, based on those facts and many of the other reasons why my permit was denied, I imagine that's my time's up. And I thank you for your consideration and your time that you give to the community for this table and what you guys do for us. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Ms. Isaacs.
Do I leave now?
No, I think you're good.
Okay.
All right, anyone else? Step up to the podium, say your name.
Good, you left the mic on. My name is Nancy Wiles. I am the resident at 1206 First Avenue, which is directly behind the proposed site. I also own 1204 and 1202 First Avenue, which are two more residential sites. Many years ago, my husband was the commissioner of the Softball Association. We have lived in that house since 1985. My children played at the Little League fields. My husband organized multiple tournaments at the softball fields to include the firecracker tournament, which happens on the 4th of July to this day. Families come in from all over the state to participate in these tournaments. They bring not just the players, they bring their entire family. They set up their RVs, their tents. It's a big social event. A marijuana retail site has no business being that close to the softball fields, nor does it have any business being that close to the Little League fields. Aside from any personal opinions I have, that is what the buffer zone is for, and I would like to see it upheld. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wiles. Sir?
Sorry. My name's Ken Dunbar. I've got 4 lots next to Nancy that I just got subdivided and want to build houses on, and I have 17 houses in the neighborhood. And they should have put it in escrow subject to getting all the stuff done, so I don't really feel sorry for them, and I object to the deal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dunbar.
Hi, everybody. Tia Winger. I live in Birch Street, behind with Nancy Wiles. I'm here as a representative of our neighborhood. We did a neighborhood poll on our page of if this is supported by our neighborhood as a whole. And we had 8 no votes. We had 1 yes vote. We had 4 I don't cares and 1 with concern. So the overall whelming attitude we have from the neighborhood is we don't want to see this. We have enough problems. We have known drug houses in our neighborhoods. This would only increase those problems we see. We have a tremendous amount of homeless people that come through our neighborhood. There's a lot of kids in our neighborhood. If you drive down, you'll see a lot of kids out playing. So we already have concerns with safety that we've been actively working with Scott Bloom on, and those haven't gotten any better. So now our concern is you add in the dip net fishery in our neighborhood. People park up and down. They park in the ball fields. They ride their ATVs up through our neighborhood. They're going to be riding their ATVs across the highway to get up to this retail shop. They'll be riding them through the neighborhood to get to the retail shop. And so how is this going to be controlled? I mean, it's going to be a safety concern from every aspect. You're going to have people through a 3-week dip net fishery running up and across your highway to go to the shop, going back down to consume the products at your local baseball fields where there's active tournaments at the softball fields. There are active tournaments, and you guys allow overflow parking at the ball fields. So this would be recreational drugs that are going to go back to your city facilities, which they're not allowed on. So by allowing this, it's going to open up a whole nother can of worms. It's not a good location. They can go a mile each direction and find that need. But overall, our neighborhood does not support this.
Thank you, Ms. Winger. Is there anybody else? Is there anyone online? Sir?
Yeah, my name is Jim Glendenning. I live in Woodland subdivision. I'm a former member of this body and also the city council. And back in the day when this whole subject of the marijuana being allowed in the town, being allowed under certain circumstances, certain businesses, all of these were well discussed and outlined with compromise, but yet universal approval for the conditions and buffer distances that have been established. And I see no reason to tear these down. We had community participation. We had work sessions. We contacted state officials who how can we say, control the marijuana, and we came up with what I feel is a very good system for allowing retail marijuana in our city, but with these established buffers. And I'm sorry I'm late to the game, but thank you for listening to me, and I do not advise that you consider a variance for this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glendenning, and stellar Bierthgross. Anybody else wish to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, we will bring it back to the commission. Before we start, I do want to recuse myself.
Can I ask a question first?
Sure.
Normally, we have an applicant here that weighs in on their own behalf. Do we have an applicant here tonight to testify? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think one of you would be good to at least have you on the record. That way there we can ask you questions if we have any.
So for the record, my name is Richard Moses. I mean, apart from the application, which you seem to have reviewed and your staff has certainly reviewed, we don't have much more to add other than the fact that this is really, this is about fairness. This is about an employee, someone who used to work very closely with this commission, and I grant you, not a member of this commission and certainly not your current planning director, who assured Mrs. Millhouse that in fact this property was compliant with the code. And that's the issue before you. It is certainly not an issue about dip net fisheries. It is not an issue about overflow parking. It is not an issue about people operating their ATVs to and from the river to a marijuana store. This is an issue about fairness.
I got a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
So, and this might be, I don't want to open that can of worms too deep right now, but as far as the guarantee that supposedly was given out, is there anything in writing with that? Do we have any other than somebody that's not here anymore? I mean, I guess I'm just curious because it was brought up by the planning director, so I want to give it some credence, but I'm just curious what the level of that is.
Sure. To the best of my knowledge, no questions now. Mrs. Millhouse is a part of that conversation. Sure. Turn on your mic. Oh, I apologize. I didn't realize that it didn't just stay on. To the best of my knowledge, Commissioner Tway, the answer to that question is no. Mrs. Millhouse is here and can certainly clarify that under oath for you. I was not a party to that conversation. I am her attorney and was not involved in these discussions at that point in time. So if you want to hear from her, we can certainly ask her that question, but it's my understanding the answer to that is no.
All right, and so this might be a question for her too, but I was just curious, since it is documented that it was denied back in 2018 or 16 or whatever it was that disclosed by anybody? Does she have any foreknowledge of that or any of that too? Is that probably a question for her as well?
Turn that back on, I apologize. It would be a question for her as to when she learned that information. I can confirm for you that she in fact knew that before she walked in here today. But as far as when she learned that, I don't know. So if you want to hear from her, that would be a question.
Okay, great.
Are there any other questions for me? Otherwise, I can bring her up here. Looks like not.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Moses.
Hello, my name is Sandra Millhouse. Thank you for hearing me and allowing me to speak tonight. I didn't find out about the Isaac's denial until I had purchased the property, started the remodel, done all of the paperwork and paid for it, and had turned everything into Linda Mitchell. And the week before my AMCO approval, I called Linda because I hadn't heard from her, and I had turned in the paperwork about 2 weeks before that. And she called me back to tell me that she was really sorry. She apologized about 5 times and said that she had measured wrong, and she had found out because the Isaacs had come in and demanded that she not give me the approval. And so she said she had to do a little bit more work, but said that she, again, apologized 5 times and said that she was sorry, but she had measured wrong and didn't realize that she had given me the wrong information.
All right. Answers my questions. Thank you. I don't have anything else.
I did have one other comment for the council, if I could. My first store in Wasilla has been open for 4 years now. It is by far the largest of the marijuana stores in Wasilla. And the 4 houses directly behind that facility are actually owned by me. And I actually live in the one that is closest to it. And in the 4 years that I've been operating, I have not had one instance where anyone has come onto my personal property or caused a problem for me. In the Anchorage store, of course, we have the homeless situation, so it's a different story there in a more public area. But I just wanted to point out that I'm not asking somebody else to live close to something that I'm not actually willing to live close to myself. Was there any other questions?
Any other questions, Washtenaw? Nope. Thank you, Ms. Millhouse. I appreciate it. Okay, so bringing it back to the commission, again, I'd like to recuse myself. I did get ex parte communication this morning from a member that's not here, just basically asking me about this. My statement was, I'm not allowed to talk about this right now. Come to the meeting. I don't think that this is going to affect my ability to judge or rule on this, but if anyone's got any problem with that.
Commissioner Halstead, if I might, so I think what you're declaring is not to recuse yourself, but that you have a potential conflict, and that under our code, what you probably do is pass the mic to somebody else to make that statement. We'll assume you did, and then it's up for the vice chair or the body to decide whether or not you have a conflict that would prohibit you from participating in this decision.
Understood. Thank you, sir. So Vice Chair Costa, this goes to you.
I don't think I have any objection to your position there.
I would agree. I don't see that being a conflict that would negate you from weighing in on this.
So, Mr. Halstead, just for clarity for the record, so you received a comment from a member of the public, and you responded that you weren't able to talk about it outside of this forum, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So moving forward, let's dig in. Anyone have any questions, comments? Commissioner Twait?
This probably, because our city attorney's here, I would lean on him for this. And this goes back, I guess, to former Director Mitchell. What is your knowledge of that, and do we need to weigh in on any of that as a factor in making this determination?
Thank you, Commissioner Twait. So You guys are sitting now as the Planning and Zoning Commission, and your duties and powers are to review variances and CUPs underneath the Kenai Municipal Code. So I think what's being raised by the applicant is essentially an equitable argument, sort of not really fitting in within the code per se. They're saying, hey, we were told something, whether, I'm not going to weigh into whether, that's a true or false assertion. I think we can just take it for what it is right now. I was told something, I relied on it, and that turned out not to be the truth. So I deserve, I don't want to put my words into applicants, but basically they're arguing that they relied on a assertion from the planning director, and therefore they should get the relief that they request. I professionally don't think that's what your job here is tonight. Your job is to evaluate the variance and conditional use permit based on the conditions that are specifically provided for in code.
All right, thank you. And I got a follow-up on that. Regarding the buffer distances, it's been a while, so I'm not up to speed. I can't remember off the top of my head. Are the city of Kenai's distances more stringent than the state recommendations or state laws on that? Or are we in compliance with them?
Thank you, Commissioner Twitt. So I can't speak to the states. So the state gave, when these laws were created that legalized recreational or commercial retail sales of marijuana in the state gave local municipalities the power to regulate them. We could completely prohibit marijuana, or we can allow it. They sort of did what I would refer to as set the floor. So we can't allow more than what they allow, but we can be more restrictive. And our buffer distances are certainly not more free. They're equal to or more restrictive than the state in compliance with the local authority that we've been delegated by the state.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this? Commissioner Twait.
This is a question for Mr. Best. When I got this, I tried to understand the difference between why we were doing a variance and not just a conditional use. So is there any opportunity that you can enlighten me why we have two options here? Or denial of the first one does not automatically deny the second one. So I'm just I want to make sure everybody's on the same page with that.
Thank you. Through the chair, Mr. Twait, the variance procedure is somewhat like a conditional use permit. We received the application for the variance within the conditional use permit, and we're instructed to go ahead and process that application and run it through the variance process. The applicants also wish to do that too, so we're doing both, to seek relief through the conditional use permit process and or the variance process. So it is unusual, but I don't think the code really allows us to deny the application for the variance request. So we process the application.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? I would encourage you to share your thoughts and words on this one.
All right. For staff, they mentioned another facility that was approved that was closer. That was before me. So what was that? And where is it? And when did that happen?
Thank you, Ms. Woodard. Through the chair, that is a facility that is north. I don't know the name of it. I'm not sure. There was not a variance or anything granted. I think it was a miscalculation by the staff back in, I'm going to say 2016, some point back when they approved it, might even been before that, that they allowed that facility, but there was no dispensation granted or no variance or relaxation. The staff had indicated that it met the buffer distance when it did not.
Thank you.
Director Best, was that, there was a church that had an issue with it, right? The location, the front of the building versus the back of the building, the way they entered the building, I think was the deciding factor on that one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was another facility that the original church, you measure to the door of facility of a church, and the distance to the old church was now something else, and they built a new, larger facility, and the front door to the new, larger facility was where they indicated, where they actually measured to get the proper distance. So I think that's what I recall on that particular issue. So the front door is now the new entrance to the church.
So Commissioner Halstead, if I might, just to make sure the record's clear. So Plan Director Best is talking about two separate properties. The first one was it was measured to what was an educational facility. It was the KPED building, and there was a adult education program school in there. And that one was mismeasured. The second one that Mr. Best spoke to was property by the old Moose's Lodge. And that one, for churches, you measure, our code provides that you measure to the front entrance or the main entrance of a church. So there is some dispute in that particular matter about which door was the front entrance, but that's not something that's really relevant here. There was one other decision I think that the applicants mentioned in their application, and that was, I think, East Rip, and that also was not a variance. It was determined that the open space next to it was not a recreational facility. It was a decision that was made and not decided under our variance procedures under our code.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom, for clarification. Okay, seeing no other discussion, we will call for the vote.
Thank you. Ed?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Tweed, Chair Tweed.
Yeah, I guess I just want to make sure, and I'm probably micro-analyzing this now at this point. This could be for Director Best or Mr. Bloom. We, as a city, measure in a straight line for these things. Is that typical, or is that standard throughout the rest of the state? And this might be the same answer, that you don't have an answer how that works in other communities, but I'm just curious, because if you're looking at this one in particular, certainly no one's going to walk a straight line across 5 lanes, you know, so I'm just curious, if you went down the street, across the street, it would certainly probably get close to that 500-foot mark. And I just want to make sure we've got that under, maybe the city, we do this a little differently than in the valley or other places. I'm just curious. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Twait. So I can't really speak to how other communities do it. I know at least that when we were looking as a city at developing buffer distances, we did look at other examples. And especially outside the state of Alaska, there are some places that measure it by the walking path. So it's not as the crow flies like we do it, but it was how you would walk to a facility. So there's certainly a lot of variances to how places across the United States measure things. Ours is as the crow flies in every circumstance. We don't currently, although we potentially could take into account, you know, highways and other types of physical barriers, but that's not the way that our code is written right now. And that was not the decision that the Board of Equalization made in regards specifically to how the buffers are measured for this property to recreational facilities.
Thank you again. And I'll just, I guess, state my thoughts on this. There was some testimony about, homeless and different things that I think Ms. Winger stated. And I think those are things that we need to definitely consider. I would say, since we've had any and all of the conditional use permits that we've granted here for recreational marijuana, I haven't heard or seen of any problems of those kind of natures, drug problems and things of that nature. I would say that with the dip netters, you probably could end up with much more problems with people sitting in the parking lot of the Little League fields drinking something than you would probably have in that. So that being said, I just don't, I think it's a separate issue, and I don't really think it's relevant to this, but I do believe that we've got code in place that is pretty clear cut, and with that being said, I would be in support of denying this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tweet. Anyone else? Commissioner Fikes?
Yeah, I also agree with staff's findings on this. I believe, as one of the residents testified, there was a lot of discussion going into marijuana establishments and what that would look like in the city of Kenai, and it wasn't just discussed overnight. There was a lot of discussion. There was a lot of workshops and community involvement, and through that, along with legal, we came to an understanding of what we wanted our code to look like in our city. And so I really don't see a point in approving a variance for that. I think we had it well established. It's unfortunate that an error occurred, but I think a business owner has some due diligence and responsibility to vet their business and how they want to move forward with it. So it's a pretty sizable investment to just base it on one person's finding, but for the staff's report, I'm going to be in favor of denying this.
Okay, another one, Commissioner.
Just one last thing, I just want to make sure, because we have a recommendation to deny. I just want to make sure if we can reiterate when we vote, how we're voting, to make sure we're stating what we really mean. So if we could just clarify that maybe with Megan, please.
Yes, because the resolution is denying the application. A yes vote is an approval of the denial. So you vote yes, that means you want to deny the permit. A vote no would mean you do not want to deny the permit.
May we have the vote, please?
Commissioner Fikes?
Yes.
Commissioner Twait?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard?
Yes.
Commissioner Ersley?
Yes.
Vice Chair Costin?
Yes.
Chair Halstead?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Please note there is a 15-day period that an aggrieved party can file an appeal with the clerk's office. And we have Resolution PZ 2024-19, which is a consideration of a conditional use permit to operate a retail marijuana store on the property described as government lots 19, 20, and 21, Section 6, T5N, R11W, located at 11888 Kenai Spur Highway, Suite 3, in the General Commercial Zone. Please note the title provided on the resolution states that this is a resolution denying a conditional use permit for a retail marijuana store. Is there a motion to approve Resolution PZ 2024-19? Commissioner Tweed?
I would move to approve PZ 2024-19.
Second.
Director Best, can we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Once again, the applicant is Sandra and Troy Millhouse. A building address is 11888 Kenai Spur Highway, general commercial unoccupied building within that zone pursuant to the Kenai Municipal Code 1420-150A. The intent of a conditional use permit is to allow some uses that may be compatible with the design principal uses in the specific zoning district, provided certain conditions are met. Prior to granting the conditional use permit, the commission shall determine that the identified criteria as outlined in 1420-150E conditional use permits are met. Criteria 1, the use is consistent with the purpose of the chapter and the purposes of the intent of the zoning district. Given the preceding variance permit application not meeting the requirement criteria, staff believes pursuant to 1420-330F2, the finding cannot be made that the proposed retail marijuana store is consistent with the purpose of the chapter or the intent of the zoning district. Criteria 2, the economic and non-economic value of adjoining properties and neighborhood would not be significantly impaired. Finding from staff is the economic and non-economic value of the adjacent properties would not be adversely affected by the proposal. Criteria 3, the proposed use is in harmony with the comprehensive plan. The land use plan from the 2016 comprehensive plan identifies the subject property within the general commercial land use classification. The GC land use classification is such that general commercial is intended for retail services and office businesses that serve Kenai at a larger region. The subject property is surrounded. Hello? Oh, you can still hear me. Okay, sorry. I thought I went dead. I didn't hear my echo. Sorry. The subject property is surrounded by the Kenai Spur Highway to the south and west, commercial and residential uses to the north, commercial and airport light industrial uses to the east. The proposed use would be consistent with existing commercial development in the subject property. The requested CUP is consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan. Criteria 4, public services and facilities are adequate to serve the proposed use. City water and sewer are available along First Avenue, which is city-maintained road. Primary access will be off Kenai Spur Highway, a state-maintained right-of-way. Staff finds there will be little to no noticeable increase to traffic from the Kenai Spur. The appropriate 1,600 square foot retail unit requires 1 parking space per 300 square feet of retail use for a total of 5 parking spaces. Therefore, the proposed use would not require additional parking. Staff finds that there are adequate public services and facilities to serve the proposed use. Criteria 5, the proposed use will not be harmful to the public safety and welfare. Given the preceding variance application not meeting the criteria of buffered distance, staff believes that pursuant to the code, the findings cannot be made and that the proposed retail marijuana store consisting of approximately 1,600 square feet would not be harmful to the public and safety, and I didn't read that very well, sorry. Consisting of approximately 600 square feet would not be harmful to public safety and health or welfare. Any and all specific conditions deemed necessary by the commission to fulfill the above mentioned conditions. These may include, but are not limited to, measures relative to access, screening, site development, building design, operation of the use of other similar aspects related to the proposed use. Findings, KMC 1420-330 standards for commercial marijuana establishments. The following conditions apply to retail marijuana stores. On-site consumption is prohibited. The proposed retail store shall not emit odors detectable by the public from outside. The proposed marijuana establishment may not conduct business on or allow any customer or customers to access the licensed premise between the hours of 5 a.m. and 8 a.m. daily. All notices and mailings were sent per the code. Staff finds that the proposed CUP application for the operation of approximately 1,600 square foot retail marijuana store within the existing approximately 9,332 square foot commercial building on government lots 19 and 20 and 21 within the city of Kenai do not meet the required criteria and conditions for issuance of a conditional use permit as set forth in subsections E1 through E6 of the code. This decision of the Planning Commission is subject to appeal and pursuant to KMC 1420-290, and that is the end of the staff report.
Thank you, Director Best.
Chair Halstead, if I might, if Director Best could just review criteria number 5 again. I think that you stumbled on that because there's an error in there, and I'd like you to clarify what your actual recommendation is.
Okay, and that was the findings on 5, the proposed use will not be harmful to public health and safety and welfare? That's the criteria?
Yeah, because the way it's written, it says you cannot make that finding. It's a double negative. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what your actual recommendation is.
Yeah, the recommendation would be that we cannot find that the retail store is consistent for meeting that, the public health and safety is not consistent with that particular criteria. Does that help? Thank you. Yeah, you're right, that wasn't written very well.
Thank you, Director Best. We can hear from the applicant if they want to present any further at this time.
So again, for the record, Richard Moses, I think, given that the body has already denied the variance permit, there really is nothing left to say unless any individual commissioner has a specific question.
Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to Resolution PZ 2024-19? And, yep. Okay, just come to the podium, make sure that red light is on, and state your name, please.
My name is Denise Isaacs, and I'd like to talk about due diligence. There's a certain process in which we have to follow in order to get a marijuana license. One of those is to abide by our rules, and they have not. That place did have tenants in it. When they purchased it, they kicked them out. How I know that? Because they came in and discussed it with me. I do know that that place can hold very many different places. In fact, I had to lease that place for several months prior to that, and that place was always full with us. And if you can lease it for the right amount of money, that place will lease out. Yes, it is old. Yes, it does need work, but you know what? So does a lot of places around here. But if they want recourse, I would imagine it would not be whether or not they received permission from the city, because that was with a phone call, and you can't do squat with a phone call. But however, what you can do is you can research public record. And the Swan Square, from whom she purchased these buildings from, was fully aware of the conditions in which they were denied and had all the documentation necessary to be forthcoming in that. So if that was the case, that has nothing to do with you guys, and they should maybe look otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Isaacs. Please state your name.
My name is Nancy Wiles. Again, I'm the resident at 1206 First Avenue, and I own 2 additional residential lots there. Speaking to the health and safety rather than the variance, which was not granted, we do have a lot of traffic through there. The city is aware of what we in the neighborhood call the drug house, which is like 3 houses down from where this location is. We already have quite a few people who are out there, for lack of a better term, tweaking on their drugs. They walk up and down the road. I cannot imagine it being any benefit to the city to have additional draws for this type of people. I don't really particularly want it in front of my house. I have put up with numerous different businesses that go through that mall. Like I said, I've been there since 1985. The billiards place, the youth club with no alcohol but loud music that blasted out during the night. It's just not a area for this type of a commercial use. There is a lot of other use that could be used residentially. It does have good frontage, but I'm just totally opposed to marijuana sales in the area.
Thank you, Ms. Wiles.
My name is Tia Winger. Again, I appreciate if you guys uphold denying this. Mr. Twait, you did speak to marijuana not being an issue as far as you know with the homeless population. that's a speculation made. You don't know that, you haven't seen any hard police evidence or anything. You see plenty of conduct between the cops making contact with those people while they're actually smoking in that gazebo next to Louis. So there's a lot of documentation. I would encourage you to look into that, as well as to say that there'd be more problems with people crossing their ATVs to go drink at the ball fields. Well, if they're gonna drink, they could be smoking. So again, that goes into a concern of safety and hazard. So that's what our concern as a neighborhood. As Ms. Weil said, the city knows that we have a lot of iffy traffic through there. And I'm sorry that they purchased this. Ms. Mitchell isn't here to defend herself. She was a pretty diligent lady. She did her research, and she's not here to say, no, I didn't say that, or yes, I did, and I own that. So without anything written in paper, this is a speculation. And I'm sorry, life isn't equal and life isn't fair. Do your work, do your due diligence. They're in the business, they know. She lives in behind a facility in Wasilla. Wasilla is not Kenai, and we're not the same. She's aware of the homeless problems they have at the facility in Anchorage, so how would ours be any different? So these are our concerns. So this individual is not living behind this property in question. She is, and her grandkids are. So there's a little bit of a difference. It's not the applicant living there, it's not them dealing with any of it, and it does bring actual safety concerns to our area. And again, the overall language from the neighborhood is this is not supported, and we would like the council to look at this and deny this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winger.
Oh.
Chair Twait?
Since you called me out, I will just defend what I said. I'm not saying that there isn't marijuana problems in this town. I'm just simply saying that no different than if somebody goes to Safeway and buys alcohol and then gets into trouble. I don't think the establishments are, and Mr. Bloom can probably back me up or clarify for me. I don't know that we've had any violations with the marijuana retail stores, is what my point was.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I was just pointing out that without knowledge from Chief Ross, you don't have that knowledge to make the assumption that this isn't an issue.
Mr. Bloom would probably know the answer to that. Have we had any violations with our retail stores?
Thank you. So they're not criminal statutes, so they're enforced by the Alaska State Alcohol and Marijuana Control Board. They have inspectors that come down, so complaints are forwarded to them. I don't know that we've had, our police have enforced any criminal statutes or local regulations against any retail marijuana stores, but that doesn't mean that they've all followed the rules.
I think it was the individuals that are going to the facility, such as homeless people going through, that there's been contact made. I didn't take Mr. Twait's statement as the facilities themselves as much as the patrons, and that's what I'm saying. You can't speak that the homeless people aren't going there and going through and using it within the population. So how are those same homeless people not going to go through our neighborhood into the known drug house and not use? Those are our concerns.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, we will bring it back to the commission. Discussion from the commission. Director Best.
Thank you, Chairman Halstead. I have a request of the commission on the resolution number PZ 2024-19 for the CUP on page 3 of 4. Number 5, the proposed use will not be harmful to public health and safety and welfare. Within the findings, on the last sentence there, last part, the last line, would you entertain a motion to strike the word not, which makes that statement true? With the word not, it does not. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is that more of a clerical error, or is that something we need to make a motion to remove?
I would entertain a motion. I think you should entertain a motion and change the resolution by motion.
Does anyone want to make a motion? Commissioner Twait?
Well, I'm just going to ask to clarify because I was half listening, but I guess maybe not all the way. You're talking about finding 3? Or which finding?
Number 5, we have, on page 3 of 4 of the resolution, the actual resolution. Number 5, in the findings, the last sentence, it reads, consisting of approximately 1,600 square feet would remove the word not, and would be read, square feet would be harmful to the public health and safety. Requesting to remove the word not.
I see it now. All right. So I would make a motion then under the findings under item 5 to strike the word not. And so it would read that last, well, I'll read the whole thing. Given the preceding variance permit application not meeting required criteria, staff believes that pursuant to KMC 1420.330 F2, the findings cannot be made that the proposed retail marijuana store consisting of approximately 1,600 square feet would be harmful to the public safety, health, and welfare.
I second that.
Any questions, comments on that one? All right, we have I
would ask for unanimous consent.
Anyone opposed? Seeing none. All right, we have the amended Resolution PZ 2024-19. Any questions, comments on that? Commissioner Twait?
I will just, I guess, go ahead and weigh in on this. And again, I will say that I feel for the applicant if they were misled by former staff. But what we have to look at is pretty much cut and dry. There's not a lot of leeway in any of that. And so I think that given that we are, I feel we are obligated to go along with the current staff recommendations to deny this. So I will be in support of denying it.
Anyone else? Okay, I would just say, I kind of echo Chair Twait's thoughts on this. I think it's very unfortunate that this circumstance is what it is, but there was a lot of work that was put into putting these zoning regulations as they are now, lots of time spent on making sure we had, what we thought was the best interest of our community. So I will be in support of denying this as well. That being said, can we have the vote?
Can we just clarify again what the yes and no votes are?
So this is also a case where if you vote yes, that would be to deny the permit, and a no means you would not vote to deny. All right, Vice Chair Costin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ursley?
Yes.
Chair Halstead?
Yes.
Commissioner Woodard?
Yes.
Commissioner Fikes?
Yes.
Commissioner Twait?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Please note there is a 15-day period that an aggrieved party can file an appeal with the clerk's office. And that goes to unfinished business, which is discussion and recommendation. Proposal to reduce the number of meetings for Planning and Zoning Commission. On 6/12/24, this item was postponed. Is there a motion to postpone the discussion to reduce the number of Planning and Zoning Commission meetings indefinitely?
How do we want to proceed with that?
Director Best.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe if you make a motion to be brought back by staff, when you actually have a permanent staff here, they can weigh in on that. So you may never see it again, or you may see it again. That's one of those things that hangs out there. So Megan probably has something to add to that.
Sure. So on the June 12th meeting, I think you guys voted to postpone it to the July 26th meeting. And through the discussion, the reasoning was because you wanted a full commission there. And we don't even have a full commission tonight, but there was no other business on July 26th. So it was just kind of, it's sort of in limbo right now. I discussed this with the city clerk, and she recommended a vote to postpone indefinitely. That just closes the case for right now. At any point in the future, when we have a new planning director, they may ask to add it to the agenda, or one of you guys can ask the planning director, but just to postpone it indefinitely takes it off of our pending items for the current future.
Thank you. Any questions, comments on that? Commissioner Tweed?
I would just make a motion to postpone indefinitely until brought back by future staff.
Is there a second? I believe Commissioner Costa's second. Is that a unanimous consent?
I would ask for unanimous consent.
Is there any opposition to that? Seeing none, make it so. And a yes vote does mean yes on this one. Okay, new business. Was on the consent agenda. Reports, Planning Director, Interim Planning Director Best, may I have your report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have only one thing really to add is there will be no second meeting in August. I believe we sent out a cancellation today. We have no action items or any applications pending for that. There's some legislative stuff, but I'm passing that on to the next permanent competent person. So, which is, I don't know who. Scott did a pretty good job. Maybe he could do 2 jobs. Yeah. And I would like to thank my staff, Beth and Brandon both do an excellent job, and they're real quick studies and gotten up to speed on learning ins and outs of the planning department. And I'm very appreciative of their help throughout the weeks that I'm there floundering around. So I appreciate them. Thank you, Brandon, and Beth, if you're listening, thank you too. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Best. Commission Chair, provide my report. I have none. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. These are not fun ones, I don't think. Definitely an unfortunate situation, but that's what we're here for. So thank you, everyone, for keying in on that. Moves us to Borough Planning, Commissioner Fikes.
Alrighty then, let's see, on Monday, we had a conditional use permit to construct a cedar plank fence partially within the 50-foot habitat protection district of the Kenai River. This is located in the Sterling area, and this generated some conversation. So what typically happens when we are impacted by the 50-foot habitat protection area, fencing comes up in code, and so the River Center does their due diligence with the applicant and gets all the information, and then they present it to us after staff takes a stab at it. But we've kind of been floundering because there's no definitive. It's kind of ambiguous. It's just fence. It doesn't say a 6-foot, it doesn't say 100-foot, it doesn't say obstruction, so, and then one of the chairs actually tapped into a definition that said that it has to pertain to water, intrinsic water impact. And so clearly a fence doesn't really do that. Obviously everybody wants fencing because they want privacy. And the reason why we spend so much time with it is the folks that are coming to us and asking for these fences, there's consideration that we put into the code was for wildlife. So as the wildlife tries to move and meander around in and out of folks' place in the river, the fencing can obviously become an issue. And so from that discussion, we ultimately approved it But we also tossed it back to the staff, and they're actually going to take a hard look at code and see if we can come up with some more clear standards and findings so that we have a better understanding moving forward of what that's going to look like when somebody wants to establish a fence down in that area. So I thought that was some really good discussion on that. Then we jumped into a utility easement in the Nikiski area, and that was pretty straightforward, and that one was approved. And then we got a right-of-way vacation in the Happy Valley area, and that one also was approved. Pretty remote area, no real big impacts or anything. And that shot us around to an ordinance authorizing the retention or sale of certain real property conveyed to the borough through tax foreclosure. And so there's a little bit of discussion on some parcels that had come available. And so we obviously said yes to that. And then we had an ordinance that was going to be amending to address adoptions and deletions of anadromous waters within the South District. And so that was just a housekeeping maneuver, and so we just said yes to that as well. We had 5 plats that were passed by the consent agenda, and then we had 5 plats that were reviewed and ultimately passed. And that was it.
Thank you, Commissioner Fike. Councilmember Doffett.
Yes, we've had a lot of canceled meetings and delayed meetings, so July was amazing. I actually didn't have a meeting in July. It was pretty awesome, actually. And then I just happened to be hunting and missed the last council meeting, so it really didn't have a whole lot going on that one. Nothing as intense as what's going on tonight, for sure. They got a couple of grants for the airport. For professional service agreement for the municipal airport master plan to help work on that, and another one for some snow removal equipment for a federal aviation grant that they were able to get a new wheel loader and a new plow and sanding truck. And then they also approved a revised memorandum agreement between the city of Kenai and the Kenai Peninsula Borough for intergovernmental administration of borough and city municipal elections. So those are kind of the main ticket items that I was there, but I wasn't exactly there, so I don't know exactly what happened, but I know I can go off the notes. But as far as stuff going on in the city, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, Lilac and kind of across from Wildwood there, they're working on repaving it. They're doing a ton of work on it. They've dug up a lot of mess over there, to say the least. There's some major craters that they had to deal with that as they dug up stuff, they found that they decided to build a road with wood on the side and just basically buried everything on the side in the ditches and then covered it up. And then that's why the road is doing this. So they had to excavate all that. When they excavated it, they found sewer line issues, broken sewer lines, cracked sewer lines, lots of stuff. So they've been replacing sewer lines. They've been replacing tons and tons of rock. And then they should be on track, though, I think they have 1 or 2 more small digs they got to do according to the contractor, and then they should be on track to start paving here soon. So they're going to be repaving the entire road and then doing curb replacement. So should look pretty nice in there when it's all said and done. So I'm excited to see that moving forward. So that's great. And then don't forget that we have Industry Appreciation Day coming up this Saturday. Free food, some giveaways. Come down and enjoy. I'll be there cutting up watermelon for the chamber. So come get your free burger and chunk of watermelon. And I think they usually have fish and stuff going on. So pretty good car show and stuff going on like that. As far as chamber business goes, we hired Michelle, who has been there working there for a long time, did move on to a new field or new career somewhere else. And so we did hire a new employee over there, which will take over the membership relations and retail sales management side of things. So we're excited to have new people there, and they have a new front desk lady who's doing really good. And then they have started work on more of the museum curator type position. She started a part-time position over there, and she's doing really awesome. And we're seeing some movement over there, so I encourage you to go over there and check that place out if you haven't been there in a while. There's some good changes going on. They have some usually pretty good art shows going on each week over there too. So other than that, I had a great July off and now back into the meetings. So thank you, everybody.
Commissioner Tweed.
question for Mr. Dothett. Not that you are the public works guy that knows everything, but I'm just curious, with the N-Star new gas line stuff, are they on schedule and expecting to finish their task this year? Or maybe it wasn't expected to be finished this year. I'm
I
not
think
sure.
they are actually almost done with that, from what I understand. I just saw a press release on that.
Okay,
They
yeah.
should, they're on schedule to finish up, and they should be done with their project on that.
It's been quite non-evasive, really, the way they've done it. It's been pretty impressive.
It's
I
pretty
think,
amazing
so,
where they can do
yeah.
it directional drilling
Yeah.
nowadays, so.
Yep, so, all right, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Doggett. Additional public comment. Is there anyone from the public wishing to comment? Jim? No? Nothing? You're not going to sit there and not say something. All right, do we do a wave for Jim?
Step right up, folks, step right up. Anyway, I just want to say thank you guys for digging in and asking serious questions and considering all sides of the items before us this evening. And thank you for recognizing the work that us ancient ones put in to lay this marijuana regulations out for our city. And again, thank you for your focused attention. And you're just going to have to stay. You keep turning up like a bad penny. And okay, can we clone you or something? Anyway, thanks, guys.
Next meeting attendance is August 28th. That was not
it's been
happening.
Not
so-
happening, no.
So everyone should be planning to be absent. Commission comments and questions. Commissioner Ersley,
No comment at this time.
Commissioner Woodard.
Well, it's been a nice summer, having so much time off. I want to thank Max for coming back. I expected kind of to be here late, so I brought a lot of coffee and a lot of water, but this has been pleasant that we're getting done earlier. But thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Costa, Vice Commissioner Costa, sorry.
Thank you. Glad to be back. 2 months of absence from Alaska was kind of unusual for me, but I didn't really enjoy the 108-degree temperature sometimes either, but I'm glad to be back in Alaska.
Commissioner Tweet.
A question I forgot to ask somebody down that way. We have a Board of Adjustment hearing on the Sal Mantoff thing. Just wonder if we could weigh in on when that is.
So that will be at 10 a.m. on the 21st, Wednesday, the 21st.
Right here.
In Chambers.
And it's okay for us to be there. We could listen, we'll look at it. It's public open, right?
I'm pretty sure it's open to the public, yes.
Okay.
It is open to the public, but I would probably refer your question to the city clerk.
Great, thank you. Other than that, I have no other comments.
Commissioner Fikes.
All good?
All right, I have nothing further to say. No pending items. Seeing no further business for this body, we are adjourned.